TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome to a sad show. We've got a sad topic, guys, to talk about, but nevertheless, when we get together, we still want to say g'day and thanks to people and remain always a little bit optimistic and upbeat, Simon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, this is about a life well lived, isn't it? Myself.
Yeah. But like you, a life well lived.
Yeah. Easy, Tiger.
Yes, well, we know what you get up to, Simon. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, yes. You haven't only got minutes left.
Good morning, wherever you are, and if you're in our part of the world where Brad and I are, it's good evening.
Good evening. Almost night.
Yeah. Yeah, Brad was telling us in the green room, he's been working so hard today, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks off touring Europe, and he's got to go back to work, and it's so hard getting back to work.
It's a hard life, and I hear all the little violins going in the background.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't get any sympathy from me. Simon.
No.
You got no sympathy from Simon.
No.
Listen, mate, 47 years. Come back when you've worked for 47 years.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. You beat us hands down, but you know what
I mean.
Good to see you, boys. Anyway, and we've also chucked out the link to Hugh and to Jim, so they may jump on, because we know from talking to them, don't we, guys, that they are huge John Mayall fans as well. So,
yeah.
But I suppose we better kick the show off, because we don't have a lot of time here, folks. And obviously, please offer in the comments, any of your comments in regards to John's passing. But like a lot of us, Simon and Brad, we get our social media devices, and we get a lot of information from that now pretty much instantly. But I had to tell you that I got a message from the rock professor, and he said that it may be fake. And you've got to be careful too, because how many times do we see fake posts about people passing? But unfortunately, Simon, the news that you passed on to me was pretty quickly proven to be correct. John did pass away, Simon.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's as I say, as you said, one of the things, I just saw a post on Facebook, and I was like, really? And then I Googled it, having messaged you. I Googled it, and then there was this thing saying, oh, look, there's this fake story going around about John Mayall dying, and I was like, oh God, maybe it's a fake, and then you're in two minds, aren't you? Then you start worrying. But Vanity Fair were reporting it. They're reasonably august publication, so you think, well, and then later on everyone's doing it, so the Guardian and BBC, everyone's got it, so so it's true. But you're right, you do have to be careful with these things. You don't want to start going off half cocked and start reporting things that are not true. That would be bad. But yes, so so extraordinary, really. But age 90, that's a good age, isn't it? That's a life well lived, and a life well lived doing the thing that you wanted to do. And anybody, Brad, you'll appreciate this, anybody who makes a living as a musician for 70 years,
a 70-year career.
It's that sort of thing, isn't it? Early 60s, 60 to 2000, yeah. I mean, it's 70 years, isn't it? I mean, an extraordinary to be able to do it, and to be able to be one of the instigators of the British blues, of the 60s. One of the stars of that, him, Alexis Corner, certainly one of the other ones. To be able to do that, being on the front, on the beginning of it, and play the music that you love, and play the things that you that you really wanted to do, I think is amazing. And he's done it for, as I say, 70 years of doing it. And I think that is a life well lived, and that is a life well lived, choosing to do the thing that you want to do. And you know a lot of us don't get to choose what we do. We get on and do what we have to do. So,
No,
and
no, and there's a lot of people in the comments are saying, guys, what a legacy, and I think that's one of the key things that we're going to be
yes,
talking about here on this show. And obviously, this is what our channel is about, Brad, isn't it? It's about the legacy of this great music that we follow, and most of the stuff that we talk about has its origin point from the music that this guy was hugely involved and responsible for. You've got a guitar there that's inspired by Gary Moore, who's been a big part of our show. And Gary Moore talks about the albums that John Mayall did. And we've got three of the famous covers we'll throw up soon, been hugely influential, instrumental in his life, Brad. And he passed away, and we've done tribute shows for these guys. So it's like it's sort of following in a circle, bro, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I think it's a good opportunity right now to celebrate the legacy of John Mayall. But you're right, Andrew. That's why we came on here to celebrate him. But you're right, the guitar players, the legacy he's left behind with a 70-year career, it's remarkable. A pioneer, someone who is a big part of this show, the Electric Blues, British Electric Blues. It's remarkable when you think about the career path he's had, the music, the albums, even down to the amount of talent that he's played with, guys. You know what I mean? Throughout his career, he's been blessed, extremely blessed, to play with such remarkable musicians. And I mean, I think he'll go down in history, as always being remembered, for his career, for the things he's brought to the world of blues. A true and true bluesman through and through, lived and breathed it all the way through to the end. Yeah. And, I mean, there's no other way of putting it other than God bless him, God bless him for doing what he did and sticking to the blues and his true passion and, throughout his whole career.
Look, you've hit the nail on the
epitome
head.
of keeping the blues alive, isn't it?
Yeah.
The epitome of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, he's hit the nail on the head there, hasn't he, Simon, Brad, by describing John as a blues man, because I had a quick scan through the Spotify before I jumped on, and the albums that he's done, the collaborations that it's just, and he hasn't veered off. He hasn't done like a big band album, Brad, or you know what I mean. He's always sort of stuck firmly on that hard road of the blues, Simon, and made no apologies for it. There's a couple of biographies, that are out there. There's one that came out a couple of years ago that's very good, written by Joel, another Englishman. I'll get that info for you. But John makes no apology about it, Brad.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, he lived and breathed it. It was who he was, a bluesman through and through. So, God bless him. And, thank you, John Mayall, for everything he brought to the world of electric blues, British electric blues, really. I mean, we do a whole show based around British electric blues every week. We did a show last week on, the celebration of the Bluesbreaker album. And, here we are the next week, unfortunately. Was it Sunday, Monday, 3-4 days later,
Yeah.
doing a celebration of his life, unfortunately. But as Simon said, he lived a good life. He lived a life of music and doing what he set out to intend to do from the start. He lived and breathed it all the way through.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a feat. That's a musical feat to be able to continue that for 70 years. Not a lot of musicians can do that. So,
And a real trendsetter. Simon. He was a greenie before greenies became green. He was a conservationist before conservationism became a thing. He was into health food before health food became a thing. Into doing custom guitar shapes and taking chisels, Brad, and chopping up guitars before,
For
other
Eddie Van
guys.
Halen, yes.
Yeah, you're right, Simon.
yeah.
Before, so real trendsetter, Simon.
Absolutely. But I think we should, that it's easy, isn't it? And I know that Michael also got very cross about this, just describing as, the sort of the discoverer of talent, kind of thing, and it's easy.
Yeah.
That's the headline, isn't it? He had Clapton, Peter Green, and Mick Taylor in the band for 3 successive albums, and I think that's all true. But I think that actually what his legacy is about keeping the blues alive and about a life of playing the blues and taking it out to the people, touring till he's in his late 80s. I mean, it's
Well said,
amazing.
Simon.
Well, I think it's right. I think that it's that whilst I understand that point of view, and I think that it is only a small part of what he did, and I might say he was lucky to, that those people passed through his band. But I mean, later on he had Harvey Mandel and he had Walter Trout as well.
Walter Trout. Yeah.
Amazing blues players from later. That but I mean, clearly that's one aspect of his of his ability is to pick talent and pick really good guitar players. But but lots of people. But that's only a small part of of a career of taking it out to the people, making lots of albums, as you say, Andrew, retaining that roots feel, of his hero Robert Johnson, and through him, because of his, for instance, his record collection, that's where Eric Clapton spent his time, developing himself as a blues musician. So I mean, it goes a lot deeper than just searching out some talent and things. I think it's so embedded in it.
Coco Montoya. I've just got a message from Brad saying that Coco Montoya was a big part of John's band too. There's a long list of guitar players, but good on Michael for making that point, and I shared that on our social media links, guys. That point that Michael made. Yes, we're all agreeing that it's a sad day, and that's really, really cool to see, isn't it? On not only on our social media accounts, but others as well. But I thought that was a good point that Michael made. As you said, Simon, he's And I made a little dig too about legacy media. Again, legacy media will only give you a skim off the top, Brad. If you want to know and find out what the real stuff is now, go on social media and find what the fans are saying and talking about, and you'll get the true shit.
That's right, 100%.
Yeah, I think that is correct. Those obituaries are written years in advance, aren't they? When you're 90, it's already written. You have to face facts, kids. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And as you say, you've got I don't know 500 words, and that's the headline you're going to pick out, isn't it? You're going to
Eric
pick
Clapton.
out Eric Clapton, Peter Green, and Mick Taylor. We're all in the Blues Breakers, one after the other, and all made great albums off the back of it. But that's
let's not forget that they were a part of his career though. Like it's important it's an important part of his career as well. The legacy of guitar players he did bring up and through his act as well. But obviously, he stands alone as a iconic blues artist, and I think that's what's most important. You know, I think it's important to acknowledge it, but it's not the main. Like the article, just the way it was worded was very yeah, it wasn't worded very nicely.
But I think you have to accept that in that world where that those names mean something, therefore as a headline, that's what you're going to get as a headline, isn't it? In somebody's obituary, in some
Exactly.
form, those three names are going to appear, and that's how it's going to work. And,
Well, that just goes to show what journalists are like these days, and they'll use key names as triggers to get people to look at the article and whatever it may be about. So they're clickbait type things. That's all.
Yeah, I'm some of that. I mean, the Guardian has John Mayall, pioneer and figure of British blues, dies age 90, which I think that's perfectly acceptable. Influential musician whose band the Blues Breakers played leading roles in 60s blues revival, dies at home in California. I think that's a perfectly acceptable headline myself.
Yeah, I have investigated guys things on social media growth and how to do it, blah blah blah, and journalism, and I have investigated and done a little bit of research on that. And a big part of what they teach these days, which I think is incorrect, is clickbait type advertising and headlines. They do it to get people to click on it. So that was a perfect example to me of clickbait. So don't fall for it either.
No.
And personally, I don't think it's good to acknowledge it and advertise it either. But I mean, it is what it is, and exactly the shows like us, and other shows that acknowledge the blues artists and musicians and whatnot. And like you said, Andrew, the fans, the legacy will remain through the fans and not through modern day journalism.
Well, you'll notice that we only share on our social media links posts that other fans say, talk about, or do. We don't post any articles from any publications because of that fact. A very good friend of ours republished on some of our social media links an article about Peter Green a couple of days ago, and I read the article, and it just convinced me, Simon and Brad, why we don't do it, because it was just a crap article, and don't post. Read these articles if you're going to post them. Don't just post it. I'm going to post this article because it says, Peter Green was a great guitar player, and then you go and read it and it's like, Anyway, I'm getting too negative, Brad and Simon. Sorry, that's not what we're talking about.
Let's keep it all on a positive note, even though it's a sad topic. We lost a blues pioneer today, and I think that's important right now is everyone after today's show go and put on some John Mayall and have a listen. Whatever album you prefer, just put it on, have a listen, or put Spotify on a random John Mayall type playlist or something, and just celebrate the music.
We're doing Crusade. Crusade is coming up soon, folks. The three of us decided that we're going to be doing that soon. I think on my next pick, we're going to be doing Crusade. So I might do that link now, guys. In the next couple of days, I might just put that link on our because we're doing that after Simon's Little Feat, aren't we? If I remember rightly.
Is it
speaking of shows?
Have we got enough time to swap them around or not?
No. Well, no, we haven't. No, because we got to give that some thought, because that's a great album, that Crusade one too, and I've done. No, don't do that. No, we can't do that.
I just saw it to celebrate what we were doing, but I'm happy with it.
Don't you enjoy the sound of Andrew talking himself out of something?
Yeah. Speaking of shows, though, Simon, the celebration show that we did got some really, really good views from people who love the topic of the beano and British blues. What's that
Amazing,
show on
right?
to now?
1.3, 1,300 or so views. It's incredible. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm just gonna yes. So yeah, 1.5. Yeah, 1,500 views. So thanks ever so much to everyone who watched. Hope you
Watching
enjoyed it.
Simon drop out for 3 minutes at the start
Yeah.
and then come
It
back.
works.
We do
Today
that
it
on
works
purpose.
fine. Today it works fine.
It's all done on purpose, no, Simon?
Yeah.
I'm claiming that I'm not alone in this. I don't know if you watched Keith Williams's interview with Ariel Posen last night. Ariel disappeared for several minutes, and there was all manner of mayhem at the beginning where Keith had his stream running in the background, and so he's getting himself back on echo and stuff. I feel like we're way ahead of that.
Well, yeah, you're right, and I don't know what platform he uses. Does he use StreamYards?
I think he might use StreamYards. Yeah, I don't know what he was doing.
It's
I spend my life being bewildered by people's interface with technology because I've been in IT for so long. It's kind of like, the amount of faffing about that goes on just amazes me. Many ways leaves me banging my head. But watching that pedal show on that, Mick Taylor and Dan Steinhardt doing their live show on a Monday when I'm making tea, and the technology going around. Apparently, I've nearly had fingers off trying to chop an onion whilst Mick's flailing about with the technology.
Yeah. Go and look at some footage too, folks. If you're going to be listening, take Brad's advice. Go and listen to some of his music that he's produced.
Yeah.
But I also recommend go and have a look at some of that early footage from the 70s and some of that stuff from the late 60s too, Simon. It's remarkable. The interviews with him and some of the stuff of him playing live, and it's remarkable. Always willing to give information. He never had an ego. It seemed to me he was always approachable, Simon.
I think that's right. I think that's absolutely. Who was saying earlier that they'd met him a couple of times? Somebody in the chat was saying that they'd met him a couple of times, and Phil Byers said met him a couple of times on the New Zealand tour 2010. Good man, Yeah, I think I'm sure that he understood that that link with the fans, link with the the people who came to see him, and and actually was in a position to for it not to be overwhelming, but that people would come to pay their respects, and I think that's one of his legacies. He didn't get big enough so that it all gets kind of pushed aside. So, still able
Awesome.
to have contact with him and keeping it going. And as I say, that keeping it going for 70 years is as far as I'm concerned, that's worthy of a prize or two, isn't it?
Simon, I know you're going to do a shout out soon if you can to the people that are watching, but I just want to do a special shout out to Anders, who's a very good friend of ours. Anders is quite active in our Peter Green Facebook group. Anders, forgive me. I know that you're from one of the 3 Scandinavian countries. Can you just let folks know where you're from? Is it from Denmark? Or no, he's from either Denmark or Norway. Forgive me, my geography is bad and my memory. But good to have you join us on a live stream, Anders. Real Peter Green nut, Brad.
Yeah.
Good morning and welcome, I think we say. It's fantastic to have you. Stockholm, Sweden. He lives in Sweden.
That's it. Yep. My apologies. Thank you, Anders. Sorry. Please, if I called you a Danish man by accident, and that's highly offensive. It's like calling an Australian a Kiwi, eh, Brad?
I don't know if it's that bad.
Oh!
Well, we have a habit here in Australia of adopting Kiwis.
Yeah, I know. On both sides of the law.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Blind.
Stop that. Shots fired. Yes.
Yes. Well, yeah. Let's
Yeah.
keep it back on track, guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna. Yes. Good morning to Jonas Halver. Good morning, Jonas, and Anders.
brother.
Welcome, Anders. John ZD351.
Yo.
Still rolling. Morning, John. How you doing? Glad you're fine. Just busy. You just have to face the fact that we care about you. Ha.
Yeah.
So there. And when you don't
Yeah.
appear, we slightly worry.
That's right.
That's it. That's the way it is.
That's it. That's it.
Over here in British
And we want to
Electric
know
Blues
who
land.
she is too.
Good morning to Ellen. Sol, morning, Ellen. Hope you're well. Quentin James, morning, Quentin. Yes, all good in my world. Phil Bice, good morning, Phil. Mission RD100, morning mission. I like people's sign-ons. You have to call people for odd things. John, Ellen, mission, right at the top. Randy Salas. I'm going to go. Salas. Good morning, Randy, and thanks for leaving a comment. I don't know where you are. I would have gone to bed. But thanks for the comment, and thanks for dropping by with it. So, good morning, everyone. I hope you're all good, and we are. Thanks for dropping by on our midweek quick impromptu show.
Yeah. So I just want to chuck a little comment out for you guys. I had a quick look at that biography, and I just read a couple of things later this afternoon in regards to John, Brad, especially with guitar players. So he never told his guitar players ever what to do. Never told them what amps, Simon, what guitars, what pedals. It was completely always up to them. The one thing, though, that they had to do is they had to play at the volume of the band.
That's
That's
what a good leader of a band will do. I mean, they'll encourage the artists to be themselves within an act, obviously within the guidelines too. But let the guitarists breathe, let them perform and do their thing, and let them shine, let them become, which is part of what John Mayall did a lot of with his guitar players. He let them shine. He let them become, it's funny. A lot of blues pioneers did that with their guitar players.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Yeah.
Well, I think that adage about, good leaders surround themselves with people who are better than they are. And, is an absolute adage for any kind of business, any kind of, any kind of work that you do, the art of it, of any of those things. And, I've done it for the last 10 years of my life have been working life, have been recruiting IT project managers. The art of it is I've got to find really good ones. That's the only art of it. And then people go, "Oh, aren't they brilliant?" You go, "Yeah, that's nothing to do with me." It's in spite of me that they're brilliant, not because. But it's it's a really important thing to learn. It's get the best people. Don't be afraid if people are better at things than you are. Learn from them, which is and hierarchies and all that stuff don't matter.
And that is a sign.
And I think that's very much the case with John Mayall. That he put the bands together, and clearly, but you get Peter Green, you get Eric Clapton in, you get on with it, right? Play, you do what you do, and we'll follow along.
Yeah,
it'll be fine.
Exactly.
Admirable.
Yep. Do your thing.
Well, it began, didn't it? It began famously when he had Peter Green, and they went to record the album with Peter Green, A Hard Road, Simon and Brad. And we've said this many, many times. And everybody was expecting Eric Clapton to walk in, and in walks this other guy. And, they said, "Oh, where's Eric?" Because they were kind of excited. They were kind of, because Eric had developed a bit of a reputation. They were sort of, yeah, you know, Brad's coming, you know, yeah. And all of a sudden he's not there. And, you know, and John famously turned around and said, yeah, he's not Eric, but he's better.
Yeah. And look, I think to John Mayall's credit, he obviously encouraged them by giving them those sort of compliments, you know,
Yeah.
because
And
you think
that,
Gives you,
about
you've hit the
gives you
nail on the head, bro.
mm,
Exactly. That's an encouragement, isn't it?
think about joining a band that's had a legacy of these fantastic guitar players, and John Mayall goes, just be yourself and you're better, you know, like a good way to boost a guitar player's confidence, you know. Yeah, I think it's an amazing thing to do. It's not putting people down or trying to put people in their place. It's letting guitar players or letting musicians become themselves within an act, which is something that, you know, I think is always a good thing to do in any band. But you know, his main concern was to keep playing the blues and doing it the way he had planned to do it from the start, and it just progressed obviously along with different musicians along the way.
and also I think to his credit too that there seem to be no bitterness about Eric going off and forming Cream, Peter Green going off and forming. It was like, this is fantastic. Pass through my doors. And you go on to do different things, and that's fine. And I think that's also another, you know, a great attribute of somebody's, is you don't stand in people's way. You're pleased that they came, pleased that they did something useful for you, and then pleased that they've gone on to bigger and better things. And
Yeah.
I think that's an admirable trait as well. And it clearly, nobody's ever said, I've never read anything or seen anything that he was anything other than pleased that, his proteges went on to bigger and better things.
No, and that's a good point, Simon. And they've all mentioned that when they all speak about him. Mick Fleetwood himself spoke about that. There's one little interesting little fact, though. Besides him being really, really encouraging and democratic, Brad, with his bandmates, he never shared the bed that he had in the van. That was one thing that he liked when they were zipping up and down, Simon, the motorway, the A1 back in the early days. John had a bed hung, and that was only for John. Everybody else, Brad, had to sleep sitting up next to each other. But yeah, John wasn't prepared to give his bed. So some of the privileges for the band leader there, Brad. I'm sure you've experienced that a few times, haven't you?
Well, look, in my early years of touring around Australia in a 22-seater bus, we never really had that problem because there was plenty of seats. But I know when we were driving around in a van and there wasn't a lot of space to sleep, if you had the best spot in the van to sleep, you never gave it up. You went, buggy, you guys, I'm getting a good night's sleep. So yeah. But I can honestly say, I think if you were the leader of a band and you were, there was only one bed, why would you share it? Well, why would you give it up for someone else?
No.
I'm going to sleep in that damn thing. Yeah. Plus, you don't want other sweaty guys from the band that just finished a gig jumping in your bed. No way.
The story of your life, Brad.
Yeah. Keeping them out. Yeah. No, you know what I mean.
We do.
I'm mischievous, of course.
I think.
Yeah, well, I'll take my hat over that. You gotta keep your territory on the bus, haven't you? I'm the band leader. That's mine. Yes, the bed. Well done.
Listen, you can do what the hell you like during the performance, but when it comes to sleep, I'm keeping
That's right.
the bed.
That's right. Yeah.
You can play what you like, but you can't lie where you like.
I'll be honest with you guys, like even after touring for 2 months around Europe and that, the one thing that I loved coming back home was sleeping in my own bed. So I can imagine if you got, a van and you got a comfy bed set up, you wouldn't be giving it up for no one.
Yeah.
Yes, violins are back out, Brad. The violins are back out. I toured around Europe for 2 months with not a comfortable bed to be seen.
Well, that is the truth, though. But yeah, the violins are out, the little ones. Yeah.
There's a question I want to chuck at you guys, and that includes obviously everyone in the chat too. So, and our friend, our brother here, John ZD351, is sort of pointing to the direction of the question. What is it about some of these great band leaders that go out there and find this great talent, or see something in a musician that perhaps maybe no one else sees, invites them in, they flourish, they become really, really good, gives them a foundation, Simon, for them to jump off and go and build their own careers. What kind of person, from your experience, guys, is that person? Is it more? Is it a practical thing that these guys are doing? Is it from a practical perspective that they're doing these things, or is it because they are just genuinely down to earth, have no ego, and it's about sharing that experience? I'd be keen to hear what you guys think might be the motivating factor for these guys.
I think that it's love of the music. I think that, with John Mayall particularly, that's what he wanted to do. That was his love, and, from his from his early age, listening to the sounds of American blues players, like Leadbelly, Albert Ammons, Pinetop Smith, taught himself to play the piano, guitars, and harmonica on the back of those things. Clearly, that was his driving force in his life. And as I said earlier, that actually, that because that was his passion, he followed it. Not that I think, that clearly he realized, he wasn't the greatest musician, not the greatest singer, but it was his passion and he followed it, and he followed it at a time when it was just starting, the British blues, explosion, and Alexis Corner persuaded him to opt for a full-time musical career, move to London, get gigs, and then it starts, and then you're on the path, aren't you? As and that, being able to follow your passion, being able to follow the thing that you actually want to do, and be lucky enough for lots of tremendous musicians to come into your orbit, go through your band and stuff, but you keep going and you keep doing it. I think very much, that the world's divided into those people who are able to do the thing that they love and therefore it's never a job kind of thing, and the rest of us who have to get a job, because the old fingers won't do what the brain tells them to do quite the same way. So I'm envious of anybody who can do that, and I think that being able to follow his passion is the thing, but also an understanding of himself, of who he was and what he was, but what he bought as well. I think really important.
Good point, Brad.
I think humble, yes, but very smart. You want to get say, for example, hypothetically, a blues guitarist in that is going to flourish and spread their wings at some point. So you get the best out of them by letting them be themselves. So you get them in, you take them under your wing, you encourage them. A wonderful, beautiful story that I've heard of our friend Philip Sace. Jeff Healey did the same thing with him, took him under his wing, discovered him at an early age, took him under his wing, took him out on the road, knew full well that at some point Philip would go out on his own anyway, knew full well, but let Philip, flourish and be the artist that he is today. So that's what I think a smart leader does. If you know an artist is not going to be with you forever, you get them in, you get the best out of them, and you let them go when they want to go. You know what I mean? So It's not
See you
like
later,
you're
Alan.
and that's the best way to get the best out of anyone, I think, is let them be themselves, and with the risk of them leaving, they might stick around too. So that maybe there would have been the thought pattern, you
No
know.
ego.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
it's smart to do that as well as being humble, but it's a smart business move for your band to get someone in that you know is going to flourish as an amazing musician.
Yeah.
You know, in their career path, he probably knew as soon as Eric Clapton joined him, for example, that Eric was going to excel. You could tell from an early age that Eric was going to be next level, another artist within his own right.
Oh, he
You
couldn't wait to get him. He couldn't wait, bro.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was smart, and that's why on that album, this album here, it says with Eric Clapton.
Exactly, and that in itself is exactly what I'm saying, guys. It's a smart business move. The guy's got a rep.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Get him in. Get
Yeah.
him playing the best, the way he wants to play. Get him in doing the best version of Eric Clapton on the record, and pray that the guy sticks around, but know full well that he's probably going to flourish, and take
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And that in itself, you've just hit the nail on the head with the title of the album, Andrew.
Yeah.
With Eric Clapton's name on it. So that in itself is a business move, smart man, but also, a very wonderful man to be able to take someone in knowing that they're going to take off and encourage them to be the best version of himself on the record. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I had the opportunity, for example, to get in a wonderful musician in an act that I'm doing, and knowing full well they ain't going to stick around for a year or two, I'd let them be themselves, let them do their thing. But if they had a name and I thought it was going to benefit me as well, you'd do that. Be sad if they left, but you think, well, why not? Because it's going to go down in history with this person. So, yeah.
Mind you, there are a lot of bands who don't think like that, aren't there, Brad? There are a lot of bands for whom somebody leaves and then there's acrimony and years of kind of,
Listen,
whereas,
don't start us on that tangent, Simon.
Well, no, but the point is that, Eric leaves. There is not a single whisper of John Mayall, going, "You swine, how dare you?" Do you know what I mean? There is, we've made a seminal album, and then you just go off and do something else. There was never, as far as I could see, never a whisper of any of that. No jealousy, no, and I think that is a real attribute, in somebody. Really, yes, I'm like, sorry, pointy finger at anyway. Simon.
No, you make a good point, Simon.
I want to say good morning to Arvin and also Davey Woodward as well.
Davey, our good friend.
Rocking musician Davey Woodward, yeah.
Yeah, he's in Portugal. Yeah. He's he's a brother. You got to come on and do a show with us, Davey. So
the Gigmeister he is.
One day he will. But you make a good point there, guys. We don't want to sort of take the attention away too much from what John did, but you're right, Brad, as well. Rock and roll. Bands have sacked guys because more girls have been looking at the drummer. Pete Best. One of the reasons why apparently, it was easier to sack him is because he was developing more of a following with the girls. Same reason apparently why the Black Crowes got rid of their first guitarist, because he was developing a bit of a cult, because he was a great guitar player. But hey, this is Rich Robertson's band, so get rid of him.
Well, you know what? I've never really understood that. There are egos in the rock and in the music world, not just the rock world, in the music world. So anyone that takes the shine off someone else in certain acts, they go, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
And, and Simon, don't get us to start it on that tangent of that band, who we're talking about.
That's 5 shows.
Yeah, let's not go down that path, please, because at the end of the day, I think, I think we'll be here for, like Andrew said, 5 days.
I think the phrase "grow the gut" comes to mind. Actually, it's what I think.
Yes. Yes. I think you're right.
I'm going no
Yes.
further with this. But yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's like, come on. But no, I think that's a tremendous attribute as far as I'm concerned.
Mm.
You
And well done to him too. You think about it, well done to him. So well done.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. I mean, there's no more pressure cooker thing than being in a band, is there, Brad? One of my observations is bands bring out the worst in people in a way that nothing else does. In
that's
my
right.
experience, would you agree with that? Someone who's had the worst behaviour, people feel they can behave in a way that they would never do. Where I worked, you would never do that. Nobody would ever be doing that.
Mm.
And I've experienced things with people in bands, and you think if you did that at work, you would just be out. Just
Oh yeah.
would.
I've,
Oh
I've
yeah.
been I've been in
Yeah.
one band in particular. I'll leave them nameless,
Oh,
but was an original band. I joined them, and I don't know. I'll understand how things got to where they were. It was so messy and so disgusting and toxic, and I'm like, this wouldn't be tolerated in a workplace, in a working
yeah.
environment. You just
See,
would not tolerate this behavior. And yeah, I won't say much more because it might expose.
no,
I mean,
don't. No,
I'm
but
not,
you agree with me. See,
I'm
you
not
agree
bitter
with
about
me.
that stuff, but I've learned to, forgive as part of being a godly sort of bloke. I forgive and move on. Don't forget, but forgive.
Grow up.
And the thing is, I think John Mayall never really had that attribute. I don't think he had that side to him where he had that ego. He just thought it was going to. You know what I think it was? I think with John Mayall, I think he thrived on other people that were good in his band, and I think that made him better. So he knew that, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's like working in a band with me being a guitar player. And in Rewind 80s, I worked with a guitarist we've had on here before, Zach Zedris, and he's
yeah.
a phenomenal guitar player. And he lifted my playing so much on stage. I was pushing myself because I'm like, oh my goodness, this bloke is so good. Like to get to that level, I had to push myself so hard, and I still didn't get to that level. But what I'm getting at is maybe that was something John needed as well. Needed those players and people that were young, thriving, or up and coming, and had that, and it gave him that energy that he needed to keep going, and thrive.
And
Yeah.
belief in
Oh,
his formula. I also think that was the key ingredient too. He
Mm.
knew that he had a reputation. Let's not take that away,
Yeah,
folks, as well.
he was.
He had a reputation. He was a songwriter, Simon, and he knew the history, as you've said at the intro. He knew where his music came from, but
Mm.
the belief in his formula was going to work. If my guitar player leaves me this week,
Mm.
I'm going to have another guitar player next week.
Yeah,
yeah. That's
exactly
who's
right.
Which would
next.
scare the heck out of a lot of bands.
There's a look. Once you build a reputation like John Mayall did, he could pretty much grab a guitarist the next week or another bass player or drummer the next week. It wouldn't have mattered. To him, it probably would have freshened things up and made it
Yeah.
refreshing to him anyway. And I think, for John Mayall, that's like his formula, like you said, Andrew. That was his formula. Someone leaves, I bring someone else in, and it keeps it fresh for me, and it keeps the music alive, the blues alive.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's the old saying, isn't it? Never be the best. Never be the best player in the room. As you've just so eloquently said, Brad. s- playing the guitar with Zach Zedris is, you're not the best guitar player in the room, but it makes you better.
I'm never really the best guitar player in the room, Simon.
Me neither. Me neither.
I just do my best. But if there's another guitarist, I'm usually pushed to my limits. So yeah,
Yeah. Oh, when you
yeah,
when you got to step up, you step up and do your thing, don't you?
do it. And I think that's what you know. I find working not just with guitar players. If you work with remarkable musicians, it puts so much pressure on you to perform and be better musician. And I think that's one thing that John Mayall probably would do is, someone would leave, get someone in, tell them they're better, regardless of whether they are or not. And he would thrive, they would thrive, and he would thrive off them because they would become better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good way of doing business, It's like telling a new, telling a new employee that's starting in your, your department that they're the best at it,
Just to, we're going to wind things up, folks, because we've been going for 50 minutes. But I just want to throw this other point out for you guys and us to have a chat about. So, we know that John, clearly we've agreed that John was humble. He had an opportunity to retire from music, so he was in retirement for a couple of years, Simon. So he would have been able to sit back and actually take the accolades on board and be alive to have people actually describe him, as Davey described him here in the chat, as the Godfather of British blues, So, normally sometimes some of these titles and descriptions come after the artist has passed away. But he was alive for a long, long time, Brad, to be, to be around that great label, I think. Of being the Godfather of British blues, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just a bit of right. There's a really nice tribute by Joe Bonamassa on Facebook. If you haven't seen it, it's really good.
I've seen it.
Yeah, it just
Sorry
here's
about
what I
that,
want
Nick.
to stress.
Sorry you didn't hear that.
What's that? Hey, hello, Nick. Yes, very bad news. Yes, welcome. Good morning. Yeah, I would just think, that what Joe Bonamassa says is, here's what I want to stress. He was a wonderful guy and changed the game for us all. And I think that sentence, says it all about, about him. That it wasn't. He says, yes, he employed Eric Clapton, Peter Green, Mick Taylor, etc., countless. But here's what I want to stress: he was a wonderful guy, changed the game for us all. And I think that's what he should remember for: his influence and his vision, and his nurturing of talent of all not only guitar players but all talents, and his magnanimous approach to them when they went off to do other things. I think that there's a lot of lessons for us all in that, aren't there? As I said at the beginning, age 90, that is a life well lived, and that is a long and interesting creative life. And I think that if any of us can say that when we're 90, that we had that, then we've done all right, haven't we?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to be back here on the channel, Brad, aren't we? What, in 3 days' time? 4 days?
Yeah,
5 days? Something like that.
Even know, mate. I don't even know.
Yeah. What day of the week is it?
I don't even know no more. I
No.
just keep getting the messages. We're doing a show.
Yeah,
we're doing a show.
yeah, we're doing a show.
Oh,
Well, anyway, we've got a show coming up. We're going to be doing a little feat show, which ties into a few things that we've been talking about, obviously, too. And I'll put up a show card, Brad and Simon, over the next couple of hours for us to do the Crusade album. So we do look forward to that. But yeah, time flies, guys. We've got to wrap it up because I know that you guys, Brad's got dinner to have, and I know that the Rock Professor's got eggs and bacon to cook, and I've got a dog to go and walk. So
Yeah. Just before we depart, God bless John Mayall, and also while we're here, let's wish a very happy birthday to Slash. And he's 59. He's had a bit of sad news this week, so our condolences and warm prayers coming your way, Sir Sol Hudson. So yeah, all the best to some terrible news. So he's had to cancel a few shows on his festival, but we wish you all the best. And
Appetite for Destruction turned 30
Yes.
32?
I
32
think it
last
was.
weekend?
Yes. So amazing.
Wow.
And, you know, Slash is a disciple of John Mayall as well. So there you go.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Davey.
Influence all over.
Mm. Yeah.
Thank you, Davey. That's very kind. And thank you, Anders. And Anders, yeah, any of you guys, if you want to come on the show, we'd love to have you on. Anders, love to
Yeah.
your recollections of interviewing John Mayall. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you, Anders.
Thank you,
All right,
everyone, for
guys. We'll see you. Please hit the notification button if you want to see what we're doing on the channel. And subscribe if you're watching on a replay, please. And go and see our friends as well if you want to. It's a really important part of what we want to do here. And also on Instagram, you can catch Brad Cook Music. Brad is posting in between, working his guts out and working hard,
Musicians in there trying to get out.
Yes. And the Rock Professor in his leisure and retirement. Go and check him out.
Yeah.
John ZD351, our brother, is on there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As well, yes. John and everybody else. Fantastic. Great to see you guys. And we'll see you on Sunday.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Take care. Take it away, boss.